It is a beautiful Friday, the 11th of August 2023 is the date today. This is the Breakfast Show on Camnet Television, a show that comes to your screen every morning where we discuss a lot of important, pertinent issues happening around in our country. And of course, today, be assured, we are going to have a wonderful discussion between now and 09 hours. But also remember that you too can be part of the conversation by calling the numbers that are on the screen. Let us get to interact. Let us get to offer solutions to the challenges that this country is currently grappling with. You seated there in the comfort of your home or watching us on your platform, you are traveling for work, you are traveling to another city, or maybe you're just doing some other activities elsewhere, but you're listening to this program. Yes, you hold the solution to some of the challenges that this country is faced with. So by calling the number on the screen, you might not know who's listening when you're offering those concerns, contributions, and of course solutions to some of the challenges that we are facing this morning. So I am your host, Prudence Chota, and I hope to have a wonderful interaction with you. So before I dive deeper into what we have laid on the table this morning, let's go into the health corner just to hear what the doctor has for us this morning.
Good morning and welcome to the Health Corner here on the Breakfast Show. I am Dr. Nakubiana Mufaya. So this week we have been talking about depression, and depression is a condition that usually affects our mood. It affects how we feel and how we respond to our environment. So we talked about how depression comes about because it comes about through either you inherited condition from your relatives or your parents or your grandparents, or it could be because of certain hormones that are not balanced in the body, especially mothers who have just delivered or who have just had a baby, and so they might have postpartum depression, or mothers who have gone through menopause and they are having hormonal imbalances. Then it could also be a result of having insufficient amount of chemicals in the brain, such as serotonin and dopamine, that are very important for transmitting information in the brain. And so if you're lacking in sufficient amount of these chemicals, then you might have depression. So there are other risk factors that we talked about, such as going through a traumatic experience in your childhood or in the past. It can lead you to have depression. And people also who have personality traits, or certain personality types such as melancholy, or people who are always pessimistic or having low self-esteem, can lead to depression. Then people who also abuse alcohol can easily get depressed or have depression. So it's important that we look out for our families who might be abusing alcohol, because they might easily go into depression. Then people who have chronic illnesses like having diabetes, hypertension, or a stroke, they might also get depressed very easily because of the situation that they are in, and so they might feel overwhelmed in terms of managing the condition that they have. Then we discuss some of the symptoms. We say that depression can usually present as people who are having low mood, or a depressed mood, or a sad mood for a very long time, about 2 weeks or more than 2 weeks. Then they might have loss of interest in activities they used to enjoy before. They might also have low concentration when it comes to their work or to their school. They might have slow thinking. They might either be sleeping too much or not sleeping enough, eating too much or not eating enough. They might be fatigued and just feeling overall tiredness. Then we talked about the diagnosis and treatment, and we say that when it comes to diagnosis, people who have depression would be asked certain questions, and based on their responses to those questions, they might be diagnosed with either depression or any other type of mood disorder like bipolar. They might have anxiety or a phobia that they might be experiencing, such as social phobia. So depending on the type of condition that you might be having, you will be able to receive treatment based on that. As for depression, there are certain medications that are used to treat depression, and we call these medications antidepressants. So there are different classes, and depending on the condition or how severe it is, they might recommend certain drugs for you to take at home to help boost or increase the neurotransmitters such as the serotonins, these neurotransmitters that help to transmit information and just help to keep the brain balanced and help you to have the good mood or good feeling in the body that can help to prevent you from having depression and come out of the depression that you're having. Then there are other therapies as well that help to deal with depression, such as psychotherapy, cognitive therapy, behavior therapy, where you talk to a counselor or a psychiatrist who are trained professionally to deal with mood disorders or mental health disorders. So they will help to uncover certain things that you might not really understand and just help to change certain behaviors or adopt new habits and new behaviors that will help to get you out of the depression and prevent you from having relapses in the future. So today we'll talk about the prevention and some of the complications. So under complications, people who have depression can easily start abusing alcohol and start abusing drugs. So drug abuse and alcohol abuse can either lead to depression or even be a result of somebody who already has depression. So it's important that you take people who are abusing alcohol or substance abuse to see somebody who is trained, a psychiatrist, a counselor, who are trained to help these people come out of this abuse that they might be experiencing. So it could be a result of the depression, or it could be it could result them to have depression. Then people who have depression also can tend to have other illnesses. So they might either have chronic illnesses like hypertension, diabetes, because of their because of them not having good eating habits, where they're not eating well, whether they are eating too much of sugary foods and foods that are not good for their body. So they might end up having diabetes or hypertension and all these other chronic illnesses because they're not taking care of themselves very well because of their mental state at that time. So this can be a result of them having the depression, and either they already had depression before they got the diabetes or hypertension, or the diabetes and hypertension can just be worsened because they're not taking care of themselves very well. So the other complications that may arise is that they might have loss of esteem, and they might have difficulties maybe relating to their family members or relating to their friends or relating to their spouses, and just having good relationships with others because of the depression that they might be going through. So they might have poor relationships, and so it's important that you keep these people very close and just encourage them to form good relationships with others, to talk to other people and not to isolate themselves all the time. And it's important that you check up on such people very often so that they don't feel alone and feel isolated. So how can you prevent yourself from having depression? So if you already have depression, it's important that you understand exactly how to treat or how to go about dealing with this condition. So you need to know that you can get help anytime that you feel you are having these depressive symptoms. So you can easily go to the doctors at the hospital and talk to somebody that can be able to help you and even start you on treatment. So it's important that you seek treatment early and prevent the symptoms from being severe, so that you can be able to treat it very early and just help to live a better life. Then the other thing that you can do is talk to people around you, talk to those that you trust, your friends, your family, and just form good relationships with others so that you can be able to prevent yourself from having these relapses and prevent having suicidal ideations, because it's very easy to start thinking about suicide when you are alone. So it's important that you find spaces where you can be able to reach out to people, talk to people, and let them help you, keep you busy, and keep you out of those depressive episodes. So these are ways that you can prevent yourself from getting depression, talking to people, and also getting therapy early. So if you have depression, make sure you go to the hospital and just talk to somebody or get therapy, get treatment as soon as possible. So these are the things that we're talking about this week. I do hope you have learned something. Make sure you watch again next week as we'll be talking about some other topic. If you have missed any other episodes, you can watch them on my YouTube channel at Dr. Nakubiana Mufaya. Or if you have any questions, you can reach out to me on Facebook at Dr. Nakubiana Mufaya. I'll see you again next week. Take care of yourselves. Take care of your family. God bless and stay healthy.
There you have it. That was Dr. Mfaya this morning, and she was discussing depression and how is it that you can prevent depression. She said something very important, which most of us ignore, that has mostly resulted in people being depressed, and that is talking to someone. Remember, at the end of the conversation which the doctor just had, she mentioned to say, talk to someone. Sometimes it's not good to keep things to yourself. Yes, there are certain times where you need to keep things because maybe you are afraid you might be judged out there by people, but you can really find someone who is close to you, someone you can talk to and just open up. Sometimes, you know, when you talk about something, in as much as some things are embarrassing, but I'm sure when you talk to someone, it makes you feel better. Just don't know the secret that is there. But let's not keep things to ourselves. This leads to depression. Sometimes suddenly someone who was not taking alcohol become a drug addict. Sit them down and talk to them. As family members, let's be concerned. Let's be each other's keepers. Something very important that the doctor has said this morning. So just sit them down, talk to them in a nice way without judging them. Perhaps they can open up and you be the solution. Do not be the problem again. I've seen there are certain instances when people have opened up, instead of being solutions, we become problems and even lead them more into depression. Let's be solutions to each other. The Bible says, be one another's brother or keeper. Let's be each other's keeper. Look out for our brothers and sisters. Very important topic there. Thank you, Dr. Mfaya. Even right about now, we are also going to look at how is it that our local currency is performing against other major convertibles that is on the money market this morning. I know Kwacha has not been performing according to expectations in a couple of months, but we are yet to see where we are this morning. Of course, as I expected, not performing according to what we expect. The Zambian kwacha there against the Great British Pound is buying at 24 kwacha and selling at 24 kwacha 48 ngwe. The Zambian kwacha against the Euro they are buying at 20 kwacha 74 ngwe and selling at 21 kwacha 15 ngwe. The Zambian kwacha against the South African Rand they are buying at 1 kwacha and selling at 1 kwacha 02 ngwe. The Zambian kwacha against the United States dollar they are buying at 18 kwacha 81 ngwe and selling at 19 kwacha 19 kwacha 18 ngwe. Pardon me, that is the money market for this morning. Kwacha against other major convertibles. I know this is not what we are expecting, but I know we also have seen a bit of stability in terms of the local currency, because it has been trending around 18 kwacha, 19 kwacha for quite some time, around those figures there. It shows a little bit of stability, but even though that is the case, we expect our local currency to even perform better than what we've just seen there. At least even an appreciation would do at this particular time when the cost of living has gone quite high and goods and commodities have become expensive. We want to see at least our local currency perform according to the needs and expectation of the people. You can't have high local currency, high inflation rates, and also high cost of living, high prices of meal. Things are not okay in our economy, and we wish the government all the best as they deliberate on matters that concern Zambia. Remember, I always emphasize when I come on this program to say when they fail, we have all failed. When the United Party for National Development fails, it means the country has failed. Even the next president who will take over, it will not be as easy as you think if things are not performing according to the expectation of the people of Zambia. This is why we should not rejoice when we see the UPND failing. If you are a real leader that has intentions to lead this country, I think it's not necessary to celebrate when you see this particular administration failing. But instead, let's be a solution to some of the problems that the country is facing, so that even when you take over, at least things will be smooth for you to run the affairs of the country on behalf of the people of Zambia. That's just a word of advice this morning to our politicians and everyone around in the country. Yesterday also, at this particular segment, we're going to see some of the stories that made headline in our news yesterday, but there is a side incident, or rather situation, at the University Teaching Hospital, Zambia's biggest health facility, where traders conducting their businesses in front of the University Teaching Hospital are at risk of contracting waterborne diseases due to sewer overflow. A check by Camnet News found the affluent flowing from the Children's Hospital to UTH Adult Hospital in front of the newly constructed car park. One of the concerned traders, Frank Chungu, has bemoaned the failure by authorities to address the problem. Remember, sometimes in hospitals, this is a place where we have quite a number of diseases, and you might not know how these might move. Remember, some diseases are waterborne, and where you have water flowing from the hospital into the environment, it gives you concern. If anything, it is a state of emergency that has to be urgently addressed, but we are not seeing the authorities do that on time. Let's zoom into this particular story so that we get to hear what our colleague, that is Mr. Athias, covered yesterday when this particular issue was reported. So let's see that particular story so that you just get to understand what is it that we are talking about this morning. Let's zoom into that story that made headline in our news yesterday.
Here lies the main entrance to the country's biggest hospital, the University Teaching Hospital, UTH. The drainage is overflowing with sewage as patients, students, staff and visitors go on with their business. This undoubtedly poses a risk for people to contract waterborne diseases, as there are restaurants selling food and other traders selling groceries, vegetables and fruits. According to the traders, the effluent has been left unabated for some time now and blame UTH management for failing to address the situation.
This sewer, the UTH management, they have failed it. They are saying they have to be in cooperation with the Lusaka City Council, the Lusaka Water and Sewerage. That's the thing. The last time they came in Tuareg looking about the same issue over the sewer issue. But there is nothing that is happening.
UTH management is, however, aware of the matter, which it says has been brought to the attention of the Lusaka Water and Sanitation Company, but nothing has been done about it.
So all the hospitals pour into that same sewer line. So they've reported to the managing director, but nothing has been done about it. So it's Lusaka Water and Sewerage. So all the hospitals pour into that same sewer line. So it's coming from, where Lusaka College of Nursing is. So all the hospitals are pouring into it, but they've not come to do anything about it. So it's their issue.
Efforts to get a comment from the Lusaka Water and Sanitation Company proved futile at broadcast time as the phone of its publications manager, Shamba Mzungu, was off. For now, this is the face of the country's biggest hospital, UTH. For Camnet News, Afias Kaptula, Lusaka.
There you have it, one of the stories that made headline in our news yesterday. I don't know if it's to call upon the Lusaka Water and, sanitation issues company or University Teaching Hospital. In this particular case, we wouldn't even really know who is supposed to be in charge of that. But whoever it is, that is an urgent situation that needs to be quickly addressed. Let's get to the University Teaching Hospital and see how we can mitigate that particular challenge. Something that we have to really worry about, considering the fact that that water is coming from a hospital. We know what a hospital is comprising of, and also that gives room for diseases to spread at an alarming state. So the state, of course, when we say the state, we are appealing to government and other relevant authorities to move to the University Teaching Hospital to see how that particular challenge can be mitigated. This is a call, a wake-up call to you, our leaders in the country, to ensure that we pay particular attention to every single detail of what is happening around in our country, because just ignoring a small particular thing can lead to a lot of disaster, more than we even anticipate. Sometimes, things look easy, but you don't know the consequences that might have on human health. Imagine those trading around those places, including food. At that particular point, I think if you've been to UTH, there are a lot of food being prepared there. There is a lot of drugstores. There is a lot of something. Sometimes even a fly, just, coming in contact with that, and then going to sit on a plastic where you'll be given medicine at the drugstore. It sits there and leaves bacteria. And then you, as a person, you have prescribed medicine you're given, you hold the same pack of plastic where a fly had sat. It means bacteria would have already, spread to your hands. And without knowing, you open the pack, you get medicine with the same hand, and then put in your mouth. Look at the amount of contamination that might happen if at all we ignore these small details that are very important. So in as much as that particular incident has happened for some time, like for some days that has been happening, I think it's high time that the authorities moved in to curtail that situation. Moving on to other stories that made headline in our news yesterday. On a sad note, I know most of us have been seeing this story around since 2 days ago, when the police spokesperson Ray Hamonga informed the country that the death of a man known as Mr. Alex Zulu was not natural, according to information that was given then. Remember, Mr. Alex Zulu is allegedly suspected to have died from BP, that is hypertension, after engaging in an argument with the wife. But the family suspected something is wrong here, and they requested that the body of Mr. Zulu be exhumed so that they do a post-mortem. After conducting a post-mortem, they actually discovered that he had broken ribs, a hand, and body was swollen and stuff like that. And they suspected this might have been a murder case, which now led police to arresting the wife, who was the director of the Ministry of Finance, and 2 of his children, aged 18 and 20 years. It is suspected that on the day before he died, early in the morning, there was a fight between the couple and the children, who teamed up with the mother to beat the father, and that might have been one of the reasons why Mr. Zulu died. So the wife and the children are currently in police custody, and the family has again, gathered for the funeral to just mourn what has happened. For the family, it has come as a shock. So we visited the funeral house yesterday, where the brother to Mr. Zulu could not speak to us, but he did inform us that they'll be able to speak to the media when the whole funeral issue is done, because right now everyone feels depressed and devastated over that particular issue. But we also spoke to the neighbors, just to find a little bit information about the couple, how they lived, and the neighbors described, this particular marriage as having been toxic. because the couple constantly engaged in misunderstandings. Let's see this story that made headline in our news yesterday. And you too can be part of the conversation. Why do you think we've been seeing an increase in the number of murder cases in the country, from parents murdering their children to children murdering their parents, boyfriends killing their girlfriends, workers killing their employees, and stuff like that? Remember, there was that couple in Karango that was killed by their employee. And then last week, we also did see a man who was stabbed to death by his employee over 700 non-payment of his dues. So I don't know why this has continued to happen, but you too can be part of the conversation. Let's zoom into this story that made headline in our news yesterday. Before I preempt everything, let's see this. Zambia has continued to witness horrific murder incidences, from parents murdering their children to children murdering their parents, and now to a wife, with the help of her two sons, murdering her husband. Police spokesperson Ray Hamonga, Wednesday 9th of August 2023, reported that police had arrested a 47-year-old woman identified as Mwila Kasase for allegedly murdering her husband, Alex Zulu, with the help of her two sons, aged 18 and 20 years of age, who have also been arrested. Camnet television has followed up the matter, which led us to this house in Lusaka's Charleston area, where the horrific incident is alleged to have occurred. However, brother to the deceased refused to speak to this reporter, citing that the incident has left the family shocked and that every family member is still mourning and not ready to speak to the media. But some neighbors spoken to, who sought anonymity, have described the relationship between the couple as toxic and narrates what transpired on the fateful day.
So the fateful night when everything happened, there was a fight around 02. All neighbors came out, actually. Most of us who were close by here. We came out and we saw what was happening. It's more like after him being beaten inside together with the kids, they were beating him. That's when he rushed, came outside here. Then the oldest son, seeing that neighbors were there, now he started more like stopping the mother from their sister fight. And she said all sort of things. So later on, the man drove off in the same outfits that brought confusion. He drove off, and that's where everything happened. But the funny part, or the sad part, is that she lied to say the man was drunk and he just slept off the veranda. Then that's how he got a broken arm, which is not a fact. The truth is that he was beaten by the wife and the children there.
They add that the accused woman is a director at the Ministry of Finance, and that the couple also has a 12-year-old female child who has been left with no family member.
For the wife, she never used to greet, not even the neighbors, when she's driving out with her Toyota Hilux. No, we just see her pass and whatnot. Only knew the husband. It was a constant fight, but the man used to come most of the time. Not really that he used to stay here because of his businesses. He just used to come here. He used to run a lot of businesses. So he has left a new mall in Kasama, that he was working on. And she has just destroyed the future of the kids, because it's really sad. There's a youngest daughter who has just remained behind. I think that one is 12. So she's just there with the maids, and probably they'll take care of her by the families, but she has really destroyed the kids.
The death of Mr. Zulu has, however, raised more questions than answers, among them why the death certificate failed to clearly indicate the cause of death when it was reported by the wife that her husband died of a heart attack, when in fact not. Mr. Zulu's body was only exhumed on 8th of August 2023 at the request of his family that a post-mortem be conducted, which later revealed that the deceased sustained a broken hand, leg, ribs, and general body injuries leading to his death. May his soul continue to rest in eternal peace. Prudence Chota, reporting for Camnet TV News. What a sad incident that is there. Mr. Zulu lost his life on the 29th of July 2023. He was buried 2 days later after his death, but the family on 8th of August requested that his body be exhumed, which they did, and when they carried out post-mortem, it was indicated that when he died, he had a broken arm, broken ribs, and of course some injuries on his body that indicated that he had a fight just before his death. And then, according to the wife, she told the neighbors that he died of depression after having a misunderstanding that day. The husband left home, and where he went, he got depressed and he died. That was the information that was given, but after the post-mortem, the case has returned and the wife has been put in custody for murder. She is a director at the Ministry of Finance who teamed up with 2 of her children, that is an 18-year-old and 20-year-old, to beat their father. And you've heard there the neighbor saying, you know, he was a good man. He interacted with almost all the neighbors due to the nature of the job that he was doing. He was a businessman, and he was also constructing a mall in New Katsama, that area. And such a sad incident. The argument, of course, according to what we've been told, emanated from a car, the company car belonging to the wife, which the husband used when he went out to do business, 1 or 2 things. But it took long to come back, and the wife was not happy due to the fact that, you know, sometimes government vehicles, you're not supposed to use them after a particular incident. But the fight terminating around 02, and all the neighbors heard, you know, they heard. It means it wasn't something small, it was something that was quite big. So such a sad incident there. We just wish the family to the deceased all the best, and of course we hope justice in this particular case will be served. Moving on to other stories that made headline in our news yesterday, some patients in Lusaka have expressed concerns over the long process in accessing NEMA services. Speaking when the Minister of Labour and Social Security's Brenda Tambatamba toured the facility, the patients disclosed that NEMA scheme has been helpful, but government should cut out on the long procedure to access the services. So that was one of the news that made headline in our news yesterday. Let's take to hear what the patients said.
The National Health Insurance Management Authority NEMA was established pursuant to Section 4 of the National Health Insurance Act No. 2 of 2018 and got into full swing in 2020. The compulsory National Health Insurance Scheme aims to make healthcare financing affordable and accessible for Zambian households and the entire health sector. However, the implementation of the scheme, which was initially under the Ministry of Health, now under the Ministry of Labour and Social Security, continued to receive mixed reactions from members of the public. In its continued appreciation of challenges and successes of the scheme, the Ministry of Labour and Social Security, led by Brenda Tambatamba, has toured the University Teaching Hospital UTH to acquaint itself with operations under the program. Despite the scheme being appreciated, several patients at the facility bemoaned lengthy procedures in accessing services. In other instances, lack of prescribed medication and faulty equipment.
Seen the queues and queues, so I just avoid. I said, oh, well, so the little that I have, I think I can steal.
If we don't
the
have
pharmacies,
drugs, they go to the pharmacies.
Mm-hmm. But as for the hospital, the few times, the very time I went there, it was okay. Yeah, I have no complaint. Mm-hmm. I hope that will be the same today as well.
Officers administering the program have also expressed similar sentiments.
And the other challenge is the approval time for CT scans and MRI. They take quite some time. They give them up to 4 working days to wait for NEMA to approve.
Like if you can have something like a one-stop, because you have patients going all the way to EO1 and EO2 before they can come back here, then they have to go there and then go there. So it's tedious for a lot of patients. And as you know, if they are patients, it means they are sick. It means that they can't afford to have all that exertion on them. So if we can have something in one place, then I think it will really help. Otherwise, it's a good problem.
Speaking after the tour, NEMA Director General said the authority is already addressing some of the concerns that have been addressed, such as addressing the cumbersome procedures of the scheme.
This service to get this drug, and that's why pre-approval must always be granted. But through our analysis, we have seen that for public institutions, we don't need that. So that rule will still stand for private practitioners, where you have to explain to tell us why you actually need this drug or why you actually need to do this test. But for the public institutions, government-owned hospitals, we are going to work that away, and very soon we will come back to you and let you know that we don't need this. Absolutely.
Meanwhile, Minister of Labour and Social Security, Ms. Tambatamba, has urged NEMA to set up means of engagement with implementing facilities for the program to deliver to citizens' expectations.
And step up on what we are doing already through consultation and advisory boards between the players, which are meeting even on a quarterly basis. I think we can do much, much more, because I like the way the cancer hospital made the presentation. What is not working well from us? What is not working well from NEMA? So at which point do you get to a point where you say, now let's find how we can merge and interface and synergize properly so that we deliver the best to those who are paying the premium.
One of the major advantages noted from the tour was the scheme's ability to decongest UTH as citizens are able to access some services such as renal in private facilities. For Camnet News, Afias Kaptula, Lusaka.
There you have it. You have heard from the patients, we have heard from the NEMA director, and we have also heard from the government over some of the issues that are happening around NEMA. If you do not know what NEMA is, this is the health insurance scheme, just like insurance, you know, motor vehicle insurance, house insurance, where every month you are paying a particular fee towards insurance. And when you are sick, you go to the hospital. You know, sometimes they say, no, hospital, but luckily, you can go to any pharmacy that is registered under NEMA and you can get medicine without paying even a single coin. This is what that insurance is. So if you're not yet registered on NEMA, get yourself registered on NEMA. You can go to any health facility, you can go to any private hospital registered with NEMA, and you will access their services free. But every month, you are supposed to pay a particular fee. It's a small fee. Others even pay 20 kwacha every month. But when you go to the hospital, you find that sometimes you access services that are up to 500 kwacha. But imagine you only pay 20 kwacha every month. Some pay 30 kwacha, others pay 40 kwacha. So it doesn't matter how poor you are. Yes, I know there are some people even at 20 kwacha that can feed the entire family. But you know your health is very important. So you can register for NEMA, pay that NEMA every month, keep paying the subscription fee, and when you go to the health facility, you access good services under NEMA. But this particular also service has been marred with a lot of challenges, and some of which you've just heard in that clip, where some patients complained to say sometimes NEMA services have a long queues, and sometimes the procedures where one is told go to point A, come back to point B, then point C. And imagine this is someone who's a patient and you're being told to do all that. So it becomes quite depressing for some of the people where you pay your insurance, but you have to make to go through all that process. But we did hear also the NEMA director there indicate that they are doing everything they can to ensure that they simplify the process and make it accessible to all. This is where we are moving as a country, a very important aspect. Later on, in a few minutes, I will be allowing my guest in studio, and we are discussing a very important topic this morning. I don't want to let you know who the guests are, but you will know them when they get to the screen, and these are people you would want to listen to. So before I can allow my guests to come in, we set to and dive into the conversation. We are going to zoom into one of the last story that made headline in our news yesterday, and this is regarding the Food Reserve Agency in Kalomo district of Southern Province. They are saying they're still in need of 65,000 metric tons of white maize in order to meet its target of 110,000 metric tons in the ongoing crop marketing season. FRA Southern Province Marketing Coordinator Derek Insuluki disclosed this to Baita FM News in Kalomo district, inviting farmers to supply the agency with more maize to secure the national strategic reserve for the future. So this is one of the stories that made headline in the news yesterday. Let's just zoom in and see what the agency was talking about.
In a bid to ensure the country is food secure, the Food Reserve Agency (FRA) has paid out 1 billion kwacha as at 80th August 2023 to farmers who supplied their maize to the agency under the ongoing crop marketing season. The payout has resulted in the agency buying 223,000 metric tons of maize. Speaking during a visit to some selected depots in Southern Province, FRA Public Relations Coordinator John Chipandwe told journalists that the exercise is being conducted as farmers harvest their crops.
Right now, this year, the advantages or the benefit of the good part of what we are doing is that we have funds readily available, and farmers, once they deliver their crops, are paid within 2 or 3 days. So we are still appealing to farmers to continue delivering their crops as we put all our efforts together and try to meet the 1 million metric tons of maize that we are targeting to buy.
In Chief Siachitema of Kalomo District, Stephen Munkombwe is one of the farmers who took his maize to the nearest FRA depot and is among other farmers who have been paid and is looking forward to the next farming season.
Then, food reserve to saga pimped to like yoga. Then in the income private buyers, Baratora to saga to so good advantage in party, moving at saga to Yarim Dawu Jana to Village. So the Ayumi Yabami Zuma food reserve food reserve to Maning. So Pendran and the Ravaraka Indi, I have it and the Caribbean Hamans are this is when you are to get a man.
At the FRA depot in Chief Siachitema, 45,000 metric tons of white maize has been lying in reserves, an indication that farmers in this province still have confidence in the agency. Derek Nseluke is the provincial marketing coordinator.
In terms of payment, FRA, we are paying within 2 to 3 days after a farmer has supplied their maize. They will go and get their money at the bank. So we are encouraging all those farmers to bring their maize to FRA. Payments, it's an issue that has been catered for. You deliver within 3 days, you get your money, you plan and then use it wisely. For the province, we are expected to buy 110,000 metric tons.
The timely disbursement of funds, mainly for rural farmers, has created part-time job opportunities for these women who are cashing in from sealing these bags in readiness for stacking in the shelter. Patrick Soko, Camnet News.
An estimated 6 million people, almost 1 in 10 people in the world, fall ill as a result of eating contaminated foods, while 420,000 die every year. It is for this reason that in 2004, 160 countries voted at the United Nations to make food, safe food, a human right rather than a commodity. But risks to safety has continued, with many challenges putting strains on the supply chain. It is for this reason that the Consumer Unit Trust CATS in Zambia, in partnership with Food Africa, has embarked on a campaign which aims to address the pressing issues of food contamination resulting from handling unclean water, the unsafe and regulated use of pesticide in fruits and vegetable sector.
The objective of the project is to promote sustainable consumption and ensure food and nutrition security, and then advocate for reduction of food contamination caused by inadequate production and handling. And the other objective is also to strengthen the capacity of stakeholders in the fruits and value chain, in the fruits and vegetable value chain, and to ensure that they comply to the food safety measurements and protocols, and also to advocate to the development of the fruits and vegetable standards.
Solidaridad country manager Sihila Garakara says the campaign has been dubbed Safe and Healthy Foods, Safe and Healthy Zambia, which she says Our organization will support to ensure that small-scale farmers do not lose their produce and make losses.
Actually is a draft standard for safety, food safety and handling at production level, so that's at the farms. It's currently sitting with the board of ZABS, and once the approval from the board comes through, it will then be gazetted, and ZABS, Solidaridad, as well as CATS and other partners can then look at rolling it out, and the first thing of that would then be having a trainer of trainers, so everyone is well versed with what the standard says, and from there we then go out into the different farms and markets to create that awareness.
Meanwhile, a research conducted by CATS in some markets in Lusaka has highlighted some achievements and challenges that the producers and sellers of fruits and vegetables face in these selected markets.
Farming, areas, you discover that at the farm, there's rarely, you find that toilet facilities, they are lacking. So they also recommended that not only just in trading places, but also at the farm, one need to put decent, toilet facilities, because that's where food also is grown, and the handling, once it's starting at the food, it becomes really safe and reduces, diseases that cannot be transferred to the marketeers, later on to the consumers.
With Zambia signing to the Continental Free Trade Area, export of fruits and vegetables will prove to be a problem if aspect of safe food is not put into consideration. Prudence Chota, reporting for Camnet TV News. An estimated 6 million people. There you have it. Those were some of the stories that made headline in our news yesterday. Very interesting there to see that CATS has moved in to actually launch a campaign that will aim at ensuring that fruits and vegetables being sold on the market are actually safe for human consumption. This is very important. There are times I've been in markets and what we see sometimes is quite devastating. And then also farmers have ended up making a lot of losses due to some of the pesticides that are used in these farming blocks and farming activities for small-scale farmers, which has resulted in some of them even dropping the business. So with this campaign, we hope it will address some of the challenges being faced in this particular sector. But moving on to the stories that made headlines yesterday, moving away, to some of these stories that made headline in our news yesterday, we are going to dive into our conversation this morning. I am expecting 2 guests in studio this morning, but I know the other one is still on the way coming. I'm not going to tell you who he is, but it is someone from the Ministry of Mines and Mineral Resources. And of course, I am joined this morning also by ZRA, that is the Zambia Revenue Authority Assistant Director, Artisanal and Small-Scale Mining, Mr. Hambani Ngwenya. Sir, good morning.
Good morning, and thank you so much for this invite.
It's good that you can join us on the breakfast show. I know we are hosting you for the first time, and I'm looking forward to having a wonderful discussion and conversation with regards to this particular issue that has to do with small-scale miners. But you too can be part of the conversation. Let us get to hear what you have to say over what we will be discussing this morning. So remember, we are discussing some of the challenges faced by artisanal mining. I know artisanal miners have at times complained over huge tax burden on their head, and I know sometimes they have argued to say, why is it that big multinational companies have been given tax holidays while us small-scale miners are being choked by taxes? Your tax, my tax, our destiny is the motto for the Zambia Revenue Authority, and this morning we are discussing with them those particular segments. So Director Ngwenya will be addressing some of those aspects that you would want to hear them speak. If we are joined by also another director from the Ministry of Mines, we hope more questions will be answered with regards to this particular topic. So let me move to you, Mr. Ngwenya. Briefly, just tell us about your department at the Zambia Revenue Authority. What do you do?
Yeah, so thank you so much. To start with, I'll talk about the broader mandate of Zambia Revenue Authority, and whose mandate mainly is to collect revenue on behalf of government. That's a core mandate that ZRA was established for. Now, before I zero in down to my unit, I just want to highlight the very important aspect that the mining sector plays in our economy, in our nation. Mining is a very, very key sector, and because of its importance, and because of its strategic position that it occupies in revenues, going back to the year 2012, the Zambia Revenue Authority was structured in a way that there was a specific office that deals with the mining taxation, mining tax administration. And so a unit was established known as the Mining Audit Unit. Now, what that meant was that every player, every sector player in the mining sector were administered through the mining tax audit. So, and that has been the trend from around 2012 until about last year. What that meant is that there was no segmentation, whether you were a small miner or you were an artisanal or you were a large-scale miner. You were all being looked at or taxed under the same office. Okay, so what transpired is that arising from what happened was that there was now noticed that there's lack of focus on the small sector players, the artisanals and the small scale. You and I would agree that today when you are thinking about mining, everyone is talking about is KCM, or they are talking about Mopani and Kansanshi. Nobody talks about a small miner, okay? But you have to realize that there are thousands in this country who are holding mining licenses at an individual level. Small families, as a family, they own mines. Several licenses have been granted. Now, realizing that there's been an increased activity in the mining sector, and you also agree that recently there are discoveries of various minerals, and the first people you find on site are the individual small miners, all right, unestablished. So it was thought wise that we have now a dedicated attention to the small sector players, all right, and so in the budget for 2023, if you read back in that budget, you find there's somewhere where focused attention was being called upon. And so ZRA established what is known as an artisanal and small-scale mining unit. And this unit now, segmented all those other, all the mining taxpayers into the sizes. Okay, so you have the large taxpayers, you have the medium size, and also the artisanals. All right, so the artisanal and the medium sized, they are now falling under what we call an artisanal and small scale mining unit, which I'm heading. And so this is our mandate. Mandate here, we are primarily looking at the interest of a small miner, all right, which are different from those of a large-scale miner. They've got different challenges that they face. So we thought we should isolate this and then have a focused attention to the small players.
Interesting. When you mentioned about the aspect of, separating big mines from these small-scale miners, I'm sure even the way you tax them should be different. Is that the case? Let's talk about some of the taxes that the small-scale miners are paying to ZRA. What are those? I know we've got mineral royalties, we've got VAT, so just break it a little bit down for people to understand. When we talk about mineral royalties, I'm being told they pay almost the same as what big mines pay. Is that true, and why is that the case?
Okay, so there have been some introduction of a new tax, okay, which is effective this year, 2023, January 2023, arising from this focus on the small sector players. So the artisanal have been now, there's an introduction of what we call presumptive tax. Okay, this is a simplified version of the taxes that they were previously being subjected to. So remember I said, regardless of size, where we are coming from prior to 2023, it never mattered whether you are small or large or medium, everybody was required to pay corporate income tax. Now, corporate income tax is tax on profits. But you know, there are so many rules you need to understand to arrive at the taxable profit. It's a complex exercise. All right, and in most cases you have to hire an accountant, an experienced tax professional.
For that ordinary person watching the program this morning.
So what I'm trying to break it down so that you understand why this other tax was introduced. And so because of the complex nature of the corporate income tax, it was felt that the artisanals required a simplified tax, which it would be simple and cheaper for them, you know, to administer. And so there was a tax known as presumptive tax that has been introduced, effective this year. So that means that the artisanal players are no longer supposed to be on corporate income tax. The only tax they have to pay now is presumptive tax. However, mineral royalty applies to everyone who's engaged in the mining business. Okay, those with a mining license. All right, so artisanals have a mining license. Medium scale have got a license. The large also have got a license. So mineral royalty, in fact, is what defines a person who is in the mining sector. All right, and this one is across whatever size. Now, to say that they are paying more than the bigger players, I think that maybe it's just lack of understanding, because mineral royalty is a product of volume and price. All right, so if you produce more, you also likely to sell more. All right, so mineral royalty is collected on sale.
So on top of collecting presumptive taxes from the small-scale miners, they also have to pay mineral royalties.
Yes.
And what percentage do you collect from mineral royalties?
Okay, so mineral royalty is like I was trying to tell you, is collected on the sale, and there are various rates depending on the mineral that you are dealing in. Okay, so if you are talking about copper, it has a graduated scale kind of taxations, tax bands. All right, so it varies with the price of the movement of the copper on the LME. And also, if you're talking about manganese, it's normally taxed at 5%. If you're talking about gemstone and precious metals, these are taxed at 6%. All right, and so the taxation is varying according to what mineral one is engaged in. So really, to just dispel the myth that the artisanals are paying more than the large players, that may not be correct, because what one pays is really dependent on these two factors, the price, but also the volume of production and the sales that they make.
Maybe dispel even more so that we really understand what happens. The tax exemptions that big mines have been given, which exemptions are those ones?
Really, I don't see any exemptions, because if you're talking about exemptions, the exemptions do not look at the size of a taxpayer. All right, if they're incentive, of course, but then we do not look at the size of a taxpayer to give incentives. These are open to every person. All right, so for example, if we're talking about the mining tax regime, we are talking about mineral royalty. It is tax deductible. All right, this is tax deductible both for the small miner and also for the large taxpayer. All right, so when we say tax deductible, what that means is that it reduces the amount at which you pay your tax. So for instance, I was talking about a presumptive tax area. Maybe I should explain how it operates. All right, so presumptive tax, you simply add your sales in a month, particular month. All right, that gross amount you reduce with the mineral royalty that you have paid in the period. All right. So once you reduce the net amount, you apply only 4% on it. That is presumptive. As simple as that for the artisanals. All right. Similarly, with the large scale as well, they enjoy the same treatment. It's also allowed for deduction before you arrive at taxable profit.
But why have you put it at almost the same level with big mines? For example, I know you mentioned for gemstones, you did mention that they pay about 6%. I think that's quite high compared even to what you said about copper, where you say they pay about 4%. If I could.
No. Copper is on a sliding scale.
Okay.
It's taxed according to the bands in the prices. As the prices move up, even the rate goes up.
The rate goes up.
Yes.
Okay. For mineral royalties, we know, for example, we've got big companies or big mines that are dealing in the same gemstone, like the small scale artisanal miners. But how do you tax them the same at 6%?
Look, what I said is they will not pay the same amount. They are having the same rate.
Is the same.
Yes, but they will not pay the same amount. Okay, so it's not like it's a flat rate. It will vary according to your activity.
Okay.
Yes. So the big guys, if they are, obviously the volume is too high, they will pay much higher royalties. All right. But for the smaller, they will pay according to what they are also selling.
What they are making.
Yes.
Don't you think this maybe has been one of the reasons why small-scale miners do not, even including big ones, let me just not narrow it to the small-scale miners, sometimes do not declare what they make because somehow they feel the taxes that we are paying, mineral royalties, we are almost paying the same as the big mines, is quite on their disadvantage in part?
Maybe you could be right in a way, but I would say these are things that can be considered. We take note of those submissions. It's a submission.
Of course.
I would call it's a submission. And obviously, we should be able to submit further to the policymakers. And
just
say,
like you've done on us who are working. When you get paid this particular fee, of course tax you pay this. But if you get paid on this scale, you pay. Why don't you also narrow that down to small scale miners? If you produce these metric tons, we want you to graduate into medium. You first pay this and then we graduate you.
Yeah, no, I hear you, but like I've noted, this is noted, and it's a submission that can be considered and forwarded to the policymakers.
Of course.
Yeah.
They say, Zambia Revenue Authority, your tax, my tax, our destiny. Remember, our destiny is tied to the taxes that we pay. Let us take a short breather right about now, and we will continue with this discussion on the other side. Do not go away. We have interesting discussions on this particular topic.
Get all the latest updates in court news only on Camnet TV. We take you and make you feel part of the court sessions through our in-depth coverage of the adjudication process. Get informed on those who have been arrested, delayed and denied the police bond or bail victims, persons taking plea, court adjournments, verdicts, and those administration issues in the judiciary. Camnet TV is on channel 274 on DSTV, channel 25 on GoTV, and find us on channel 106 on Topstar. You can also follow and give us a like on our social media platforms. Camnet TV, not just another channel. Get all the latest updates in court news only on Camnet TV. We take you and make you feel part of the court sessions through our in-depth coverage of the adjudication process. Get informed on those who have been arrested, delayed and denied the police bond or bail victims, persons taking plea, court adjournments, verdicts, and those administration issues in the judiciary. Camnet TV is on channel 274 on DSTV, channel 25 on GoTV, and find us on channel 106 on Topstar. You can also follow and give us a like on our social media platforms. Camnet TV, not just another channel.
Thank you so much for still staying tuned to Camnet TV. This is the Breakfast Show on a Friday. Business for breakfast. We feed on business, we discuss business, we talk business. And of course, in studio, I have also been joined by another guest from the Ministry of Mines and Minerals Development, Cadastre Department, Mr. Samuel Mango, who's also going to join us on this conversation where we are discussing addressing the challenges that artisanal miners face in the country. I know Director from Zambia Revenue Authority there was just giving us a breakdown of some of the taxes that are being paid by artisanal miners, but also we are going to listen to the people who issue out these licenses to the artisanal miners. I know this particular department every day receives, how many people do you handle, Director, in a day with regards to licenses?
In a day, we handle approximately even about 400 per day, or even more, plus minus.
I know your department should be one of those with a lot of, you know, if it were phones, we could have been saying your department is one of those flooded with a lot of phone calls, but I know you do handle a lot of people. So Mr. Mango is joining us in the conversation from where we did end with Director from the Zambia Revenue Authority, Mr. Ngwenya. Just getting to what you were saying before we can come to Director, Ministry of Mines, Mr. Ngwenya. Yes. Let's talk about VAT. Also, the small artisanal miners, do they pay value-added tax to ZRA?
Okay, so let me just, for the ZRA purposes, the way we define our segmentation or define an artisanal, basically it's those taxpayers that are earning an amount of 800,000 per annum and below. All right, and so the same rules apply for VAT. If one does not go beyond 800,000 sales per annum, they are not eligible for VAT registration, statutory VAT registration. However, they are at liberty if they want to do a voluntary registration. They will be able. This is voluntary. But the moment you cross beyond 800,000 sales, then statutory VAT registration comes in. So
VAT comes in, presumptive tax comes in, as well as mineral royalties?
No, presumptive tax. And like I said, get it right. I said 800,000 and below, those are artisanals. And VAT does not apply to anyone below 800,000.
But what if I'm an artisanal miner but I make above that?
So you are not going to be an artisanal miner for the purpose of ZRA definition beyond the 800,000. You are now graduated to a medium size mining taxpayer.
Okay.
Yes.
That's what it means.
Yes. So beyond 800,000, you are no longer an artisanal. All right. You are now into medium size.
Medium, where do you categorize them? They are not part of artisanal miners?
No, they are not, because like I said, and I'm sure Director Mines here will talk about that. The licenses are given according to sizes. So for us at ZRA, we also categorize our taxpayers based on the turnover that they make, okay, their revenues. All right, so between 800 to about 50 million, we consider them small and medium size. Beyond 50 million per annum, those are large scale miners. So the artisanals, look, these are smallest group, individuals with basic tools of mining. And these are the people who just do it for a livelihood. So we do not expect much from them, and therefore the taxes they are paying are not as many as those other in the other bracket, higher brackets. So to answer your question, VAT does not apply to those below 800,000, and this is the artisanal group. But take my point, I said they have an option. They can apply for voluntary registration if they wish, because you see, just registration for VAT gives you a very credible picture as a taxpayer who's big. All right, if you do business, all right, if you are going to tender for something elsewhere, they ask you a list of documents, and you know, if VAT is among them, then you appear like you're a big player. So I mean, taxes in itself, you know, they also play a very major role in, you know, creating a very good corporate citizen. Yes.
of course, taxes are a must. You too can contribute to the development of this country by paying your taxes, regardless of how small it is. I know we've got this perception, we just hear tax. And you know, there is this a lot of saying of, no, taxpayers' money is being wasted. That's why people don't contribute. But the taxes we pay are made to benefit us as a country and as a people. Let me now move to you, Director at the Ministry of Mines Cadastre Department. Just briefly tell us what you do as a department at the ministry.
Thank you very much. The Mining Cadastre is a mining licensing department in the Ministry of Mines. We are an entry point towards mines development. We are endowed with minerals all over the country, and to manage them sustainably or even profitably, we regulate. The Ministry of Mines regulate the exploitation of our mineral resource. We've got several departments, and among several departments in the Ministry of Mines, we are an entry point towards mines development or exploitation of our mineral resource. By that, we issue what we call generally mining rights. So we license several entities to exploit our mineral resource. And like Director has said, we license in several categories. And our lowest category is the artisanal. And then we've got the next category, whom we call small-scale miners, and all the way into large-scale miners. So we've got three major categories.
Okay.
Yes.
Interesting there, small-scale miners. We're going to talk about small and medium enterprise mining, because I know the Federation of Small-Scale Miners is very much interested in watching this particular topic. And of course, they are even the ones who've invited you here. So I think when we say artisanal, I think we are narrowing it only to small ones, but let's also just upgrade and also talk about small-scale miners. But maybe, what are some of the laid down procedures for one to acquire small, medium, or artisanal license? What are the laid down procedures?
Yeah, the artisanal licenses was a deliberate move to license our citizens. Like the Director has said, these are our lowest level of beneficiaries. So an artisanal license was deliberately devised to license our citizens. The basic condition is that you must be a citizen. And as such, we've got several documents to prove that you are a citizen. When you are applying for an artisanal, you must bring along the NRC, the National Registration Card. Apart from the NRC, the other document we demand is a tax registration. So those two documents for an individual, examine individual. But we've gone ahead. We also license cooperatives for artisanal. As such, we add a certificate of a cooperative. So basically, you require, if you are an individual, you bring along the national registration card copy and the tax registration. But if you are a cooperative, you bring the NRCs for cooperative members and the cooperative certificate, of course, the tax registration. So those are the basics.
The way you've mentioned it, it sounds so easy, and I'm now wondering, you just need an NRC. If you are a cooperative, you just need that, and you also just need to bring your evidence of tax registration. But why is it that these mining licenses take too long to come out?
Of course, you know, once they bring in the papers, there is a procedure in our department. We look through your capabilities. Unfortunately, even if we have got this deliberate move to license you, but we want that you manage. You can imagine you come to us to say, I want a license. You bring in your NRC and tax registration, but you don't even have a pick or even a shovel. Or worse off, you don't even have a place to go and dig from. So when they bring in those papers, we analyze the capability, and we analyze to say, do you have a place to go and dig from? And we actually even analyze to say, the place where you want to go and dig from, is it yours for sure. So those are the procedures which may put that they end up delaying the process, or they seem like they delay. It's an evaluation process. Once we evaluate and we prove that you are capable, you have got some peak, you have got a place to dig from, then we call for a licensing committee to approve your license. And we've got it in the Act, in the Mines and Minerals Act, to say within 90 days we should give you a license.
But it goes above that.
Yeah, it will go above that in case there are some complications.
When you say capabilities, unless you're capable of running these mines, this brings me to these poor villagers who discover minerals, maybe at their farm or their piece of land and stuff like that. Does it mean they are not included among those who can get a license? When you say capabilities, how do you measure the capacity of someone to run a mine?
It's good that we have brought that point. And you know, as a department, or even as a ministry in general, we've admitted our shortfalls of delaying to give licenses. And we worked out the past year or so, we've come up with a strategy to make sure that we will no longer delay. I think you heard the national announcement. We were closed for almost a year, from February 2022 to November 2022. We are not operational. We are just analyzing our processes to improve the way of doing business. And when we opened, among several strategies we came up was to hold the approving committees monthly. So every month we must approve licenses. Unlike in the past, where it took even 6 months without holding the approving committees. So from November last year, we'll be having approving committees every month, and we started doing that. And we've come up with one program, national program, where we've called it formalization of artisanal and small-scale miners. It connects into a point where you say, how about if a villager discovers some mineral in his or her backyard? So we've come up with this deliberate program to say once, we've got a lot of discoveries, coincidentally, all over. Among the minerals being discovered is gold. Gold has popped up all over the country, and it's being mined what I would call illegally, because they don't have licenses. And we've come up with a deliberate program called formalization of artisanal and small scale, and we are targeting gold. By that, we've simply said they have discovered the gold in their backyard. It's not up to us to go and stop them, because even if we stop them, they will not stop. They will continue to mine illegally. The strategy is to follow them up, talk to them on the benefit of licensing or getting a license, and that's a program which is running. It started running this year.
And you give them a license even if they don't have a shovel and a shoforo and a pig?
Actually, the program is big. It has come up with, we've bought equipment, basic equipment including shovels. We have bought even a processing plant, some processing plant here and there, or even some testing machines. So we've added some technical capability from the Ministry of Mines. We follow them up. We find that they don't even have a peak. They will get it from the Ministry of Mines. So that's a program which is currently running.
They'll get it under a loan?
Yeah, actually we will not give them for free. Yeah, we are working out a mechanism on how they can feel ownership of that basic equipment or even the plant.
This is the breakfast show on Camnet television. Friday morning, we are discussing addressing challenges faced by artisanal and small-scale miners in Zambia. In studio, I am joined by the Zambia Revenue Authority Assistant Director, Artisanal and Small-Scale Mining, Mr. Hambani Ngwenya, and I'm also joined by Director at the Ministry of Finance Cadastre Department, Mr. Samuel Mango. You too can be part of the conversation. If you want to know more about this particular topic, you can let us know. I think we have a caller. Let's pick this call. Hello, good morning. Sir, good morning.
Hello.
Hello, good morning. Tuabuka fye wino. Tuwe no Camnet tutumina na mashina yenu, then you can go ahead with your contribution or submission. Muletu maku Camnet TV. Hello? I think we lost that caller. We'll have to cut the call. I'm just surprised the caller is asking. I think we didn't really believe that we could pick the call. I know there are some people who say your numbers, sometimes we try, they're ever busy, sometimes we don't get through. So, but you two can be part of the conversation. Let us know what you have to say with regards to what we are discussing this morning, joined by Director from the Zambia Revenue Authority and also Director from the Cadastre Department at the Ministry of Mines. Let me come back to you, ZRA. It is your turn now. Just maybe the challenges that you faced when it comes to collecting taxes from artisanal and small-scale miners. Let's go to that.
Thank you so much. And if you got Director just from his submission just now, the biggest challenge that we have, artisanal miners are informal in nature. They are highly informalized and they operate in an environment that is informal. That in itself is the biggest challenge because there is no way of tracing them, all right? There's no way of finding them, and they're in the remotest parts of this country where ZRA presence is literally non-existent.
Director, let me hold your thought. Hello, good morning.
Morning.
Good morning, thank you. You're through to Camnet TV Breakfast Show. Tell us the name, where you're calling us from, and you can go ahead with your submission. Lanshen Kofench, for your line is a bit low. Kusolwezi? Basolwezi mkwai landeni na ifo inoshte ya kachero. All right, thank you so much. I think we got your question. You were a bit low, but we did get your question. Director, this one is directed to you. But anyway, before maybe Director can lose a thought, just responding to the question, Director ZRA, I'll come back to you. Please hold your thought. Let's go to Mr. Mango. She says, why is it that sometimes you find that licenses, 2 licenses, 3 licenses have been given over the same place? What is causing that? And you find that this is coming from the Ministry of Mines. Everyone is coming with certified copies from the Ministry of Mines on a license given to 3 people on one particular piece of land.
Actually, we run an automated system that is able to detect that there is already a license. So, of course, there can be some human error, but we are highly automated. In case someone comes to apply where there is already a license, our automated system will reject. Yeah, it will flag us to say there is already a license.
But for her to have raised a concern, I think maybe she might have an experience of that. What might cause this?
And unless maybe there was just some deliberate human error to just issue. But otherwise, we run on an automated system.
Okay.
Yeah.
I hope that answer there satisfies your question with regards to why that is an incident. You know, sometimes technology is meant to fail. Sometimes human error come into perspective. But according to Director, whenever there is a license that has been given, it does and reject it. Maybe it's different from Ministry of Lands, where we have 3 people producing title to the same piece of land. Director ZRA, let me get back to you, Mr. Mbwenya. You were talking about the challenges that you're facing in assessing, in taxing artisanal and small-scale miners.
Yes, so I was just trying to say that the single most biggest challenge that we have is the informal nature of the artisanal miners. Like you, in your earlier example, imagine someone discovers gold in their backyard as they are digging, all right? You have no way of knowing if these people are trading, all right? Because they are not even registered anywhere. They could get that gold, find anyone who in the street and sell it off. And there's no record anywhere, all right? That is the biggest challenge that we have because, to tax people, you need to have a record. And if people are not registered, then it becomes a very huge challenge for us. And like it's been said, and all a well-known fact now, the discoveries of minerals are everywhere in every corner. You hear of gold rush in Lumezi, you hear of gold rush in Mpika, there are minerals in Mapatizia, in Mumbwa, everywhere, all right? And what goes on there, probably some of it is unreported, all right? What we know is just that which the media is able to pick. And so these challenges are real, and that is why at the ZRA we thought we must have a dedicated office for these sectors so that at least we may move away from the usual big issues. Let's move to this area. At least we see how government can get some of the revenues that are leaking.
In the first quarter of this year, if I get it correctly, I did actually attend the meeting at the Zambia Revenue Authority, and I think I can remember you made a presentation on that particular meeting, and some of the aspect that came out was the fact that ZRA did not collect enough taxes from the mining sector. That just does not apply to small and artisanal mining, including this big mining sector. There was a challenge when it came to collecting of taxes. What do you think is contributing to this?
Well,
just hold on thought before we respond to that. Let's pick up the score. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning. This is Ms. Msonda calling from Mansa.
Mr. Msonda from Mansa, it's good to know Mansa is watching this morning. Please go ahead with your submission.
That is a wonderful program. I just want to contribute on what the Director of Mines have said. It is now so common to find that two licenses appearing in one area. Like in Mansa, we have about 3 cases. Now we don't know why it is happening like that. Now what I'm saying is there's a prevalence of 2 licenses appearing on one area. Why is it like that?
All right, Mr. Msonda, thank you so much. Mr. Msonda there from Mansa. Just confirming to what our caller from Solwezi said, to say here we've got about 3 incidences where 2 licenses are appearing on one mine. What could be contributing to that?
Yeah, we are coming from a situation where we ran up a cleaning process. And we are still actually cleaning out, doing a lot of cleaning up. Those are the issues which we are following up. So from my side, is just to admit that we'll follow up such incidences. Yeah.
Maybe we could have even loved to have known a little bit about Mansa, Mr. Msonda there, which particular area this is happening, so that we can have the Ministry of Mines actually make a follow-up on that particular incident. So maybe perhaps you can leave us a message on our Facebook page. I know we've got quite a number of messages on our Facebook page with regards to this. You can leave us a message, or before the program can end at 9, just tell us exactly the area where this is happening, and the Ministry of Mines will be able to get to that.
Yes.
ZRA Director, yes, before just that particular call interrupted, we were just looking at the question regarding the challenges that you faced, and in the first quarter you did present that you had challenges in collecting the projected tax from the mining sector, including big mines. Where do we have a problem here?
Okay, so problems really, there are issues within the industry itself. So you know that ZRA collects taxes on business volumes. All right, so if business is not performing, therefore taxes also get affected. And so you'll be able to know that in the sector there are various issues that are happening, especially in the bigger players. You know, you've got certain mining entities that are yet to start production because of issues of ownership. Coupled to added to that, you have issues of the artisanals, which I've already mentioned, the informalized nature. You know,
I know, but we've seen in the past where you've presented reports before and you've told us to say ZRA managed sometimes to collect taxes in the mining sector, even way above the projections.
Indeed.
But in this particular year,
Yeah.
I think last year and this year there is a challenge that you are facing as the authority. What do you think is contributing to
So
this?
largely it has to do with business volume itself.
Mm.
The mines are having challenges in terms of production. All right, the projected tons they were projecting have not materialized due to various issues that they are facing. All right, some of them could be external, but for us at ZRA, still that doesn't really pose a challenge per se, because we know that there are other other mechanisms, other initiatives that we are currently doing or working on to ensure that we still exceed, like you have said. Well, always exceeded, and we are just halfway through. So who knows? We are coming. Yeah, we are still coming, and we know that we still remain optimistic that we're going to still, go beyond our expectations. Yes, challenges could be there in the first quarter, but as we go further in the year, things will begin to take shape and also improve much better. And I'll be here again maybe before the end of the year. You will ask me again, how did you do it? And I'll be able to say, but there are initiatives. There are initiatives that are there at ZRA to ensure that the gap is bridged, is met. Okay, there are so many I can mention. Just the creation of the artisanal unit itself has brought in a new strategy on how we can bridge the gap of these revenues, which probably last year we could not have been collecting. The artisanal unit now, which is there, is going to collect that which was not collected. It's one strategy. All right. We've also invested heavily in issues of ICT or e-filing, e-payments, all our e-platforms. We are encouraging everyone to ensure that they do their tax reporting and payment via the e-platforms. This could be a hindrance for some of them, but we are making sure that we are on a very serious campaign. We are now doing a lot of awareness. Okay, we are holding workshops across the country to ensure that people comply with taxes. All right, so we've already done successful workshops: Luapula, Lusaka, Copperbelt, Southern Province. Next week we're in Chipata. The other week we're in Mansa. The other week will be Northwestern, Central. And so we are covering the whole country to ensure that we educate people, the obligation of paying taxes. We know that some of the people do not pay taxes, primarily not because there's no business. Some of them is lack of understanding, lack of knowledge, lack of information. And I can tell you that as we've been going around doing these awareness workshops, we've received very positive feedback. Some of them are coming forward now. I say, okay, I didn't know until you held that workshop. Now I want to do the right thing. And I wanted to submit all my previous returns and make payments for them. So you understand that some of them, they never had this very vital information. So with these initiatives, I can assure you that ZRA will be, again, have a very good story to tell by the end of this year.
We wish you all the best on that.
Yeah.
Director Mango, I know we've run out of time and I know my director is giving me a signal, but just on the aspect of mining, we have heard complaints from the artisanal small-scale miners on the aspect that getting a license is very expensive. That's why this one has been left as a prestige for only the prestigious ones. They are the only ones who are managing. If I calculate what is involved in ZEMA, in the, the local authority, in the aspect of you yourself as a mine, literally someone has to have above 80,000 kwacha for them to acquire a mining license. So why do we have these expensive figures for one to acquire a license?
Yeah, maybe I'll start directly from the side of the Minister of Mines. We've ranged the application fees or even the general fees according to the levels which I talked about. The lowest fee is 900 kwacha, going to 48,000 kwacha. 48,000 kwacha is an application fee for large scale. For an artisan, the application fee is 900 kwacha. Once they pay 900 kwacha, they will be paying another 900 kwacha every year. So that is from the side of the Ministry of Mines.
But can you process a license just by someone paying 900? And are there conditions that are attached before a license can be issued? Yeah. That, of course, now which the ZEMA comes in, the local authority coming in, and making this whole process very expensive.
Yeah, actually, for an artisanal, the major fees which they pay is a very 900,000 kwacha. There is another component which you mentioned, the ZEMA, the environmental approval. They do environmental approval after operating. Once we grant them, they operate for a year or two. Within that period, they should do an environmental assessment.
Okay.
And the fee I know they pay to ZEMA is 13,000 kwacha. So those are the major fees which I know. But I cannot gauge.
And then from the Lusaka City Council, let's talk about if it's in Lusaka, if it's on the Copper Belt, from the local authority.
They don't pay anything to local authority.
Is it so?
They only pay to us 900, then they pay to ZEMA environmental assessment. Once it's approved, they pay 13,000 kwacha. Those are the major fees which I know.
And then from your ministry, cadastre department, if I have discovered minerals on my prestigious land, when I come to the mines, the process of you going to inspect, who foots for those bills?
Okay, it's good that you have got that. I think those are the things which they complain to say it's expensive. 900 plus 13,000 plus us going to inspect. For us to go inspect, we use the government rate, the 1,000 kwacha per day. Yeah. So those are the fees which accumulate, and maybe they are lumped as expensive. Yeah. The only thing about mining, mining is not an easy business. They mention to be expensive. Maybe once we license them and they want to go into actual mining, they find it expensive. The actual way of doing things, the inputs and all the requirements to come up with even a stone, it's a high cost, very high cost. No wonder they call it expensive. But on fees, I don't know if 900 kwacha is expensive.
For an ordinary villager, that's quite a lot of money. On top of that, they have to travel all the way from Kaputa to Lusaka, plus lodging here, plus they are told go here, back and forth. That process. So how are you simplifying this process for the small-scale miners? Are there plans?
One issue or one way we want to simplify, like in the current formalization program, we've actually gone ahead to buy equipment for them, and we'll provide technical services for free from the Ministry of Mines.
Okay.
Yeah, they could hire a geologist or even an environmentalist, but we'll provide this through the program, so that at least it will cut the operational cost.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting there. I know we've got quite a number of things we could have discussed, but of course time cannot allow us. Your concluding remarks. Let me go to Director Zena Revenue Authority.
All right. So I want to say thank you so much for having thought of us to come through to this program, and it gives us a very good platform on which we can educate our taxpayers. In my concluding remarks, I wish to just make an application, a strong appeal to our clients, our artisanal and small scale. It is very important that we do the right thing. Formalization, first and foremost, is a very important thing, like Director Mines has stated. we need people to get formalized. When they're formalized, we are able to then register them correctly for taxes. Now, it does not mean that if you remain unregistered, probably ZRA might not one day catch up. You know, there are various mechanisms that have been put in place to ensure that we try and much as possible to collect that revenue which is not coming into the treasury. And so we are using various tools that we've come up with. So even that person who believes that perhaps I will not be discovered and I will continue, you know, doing the illegal business, the penalties might be very harsh at the point when ZRA comes to discover. So the appeal and strong message I can make is that paying taxes is a duty. Every citizen is required to contribute to the development of this country. And so we encourage people to pay these taxes. Taxes come back to us as citizens. You know, we use those various services that government provides. And so our duty is that we must ensure that we pay taxes and correct taxes. If people have challenges, let them come and we sit on the table and discuss the best way we can resolve some of the challenges that they have.
So for small-scale miners, if you make above 800,000 annually, you graduate or you remain small?
So, again, let me go through. Artisanal, up to from 0 to 800 artisanal.
Then small and medium?
So, small and medium, from 800 up to 50 million.
But you are small. But even if you are making 800, you are still small.
Yeah, you are small.
So I'm made to pay VAT, I'll be made to pay what?
See, you know, I can tell you, VAT is a very good tax. It's a very nice tax. All right?
It's nice because
it's a very nice tax because you pay, you also get it back in your claims on your expenses. So for a business, really, VAT does not really impact much. The final burden of VAT is on the final consumer. So a business, really, for VAT purposes, it's quite a good tax. You should get down to it. You enjoy it, I can assure you.
I'm going to learn about taxes so that the next time I come here, I'll ask you good questions.
Exactly.
Director, Minister of Mines, your concluding remarks on this particular topic. And then also, as you conclude, I want you to talk a little bit about, I know that there were some penalties that were slapped on some small-scale miners. And artisanal small and medium scale miners on the issue of, and I know they complained that the fees were quite high. So I don't know how you are mitigating that to help not collapse their businesses.
Okay, it's just some obligation. Or when we grant them licenses, they should comply to certain conditions. And those who don't comply, of course, we penalize them. We actually call them, we give them a period to explain, and when they don't explain, we penalize them, or we may even cancel their license. That is according to condition of grant. And then on the platform, you know, we are in a period when minerals are popping up all over the country, particularly gold. You've heard of lithium, you've heard of sugilite.
Sugilite. I was about to tackle that topic, but I'm sure when I host you next time, to tackle some of these aspects. I know ZRA is excited knowing we have sugilite, one of the most expensive metals on the market.
And you know, one of the most valuable minerals are gold, sugilite, lithium, and lithium in the upcoming energy transition. And all these minerals are being discovered informally. And like the director said, it means if we are not careful, we'll be losing out, we'll continue to lose out. So it's, we are thankful that you have called us for this platform, because we need a lot of publicity. The discoveries, we are just talking about illegal discoveries. So we should not just continue on a path of complaining to say, no, we are losing sugilite, we are losing lithium, or we are losing gold. We should have a lot of publicity like this platform. So that we talk on the way of benefiting as a nation. So it's really a very good platform. So we look forward that you always be calling us.
Next time we are going to talk about how you can benefit. You heard director say the way of benefiting from lithium, from sugilite and stuff like that. But remember to always do the right thing. Getting a license has been simplified by the Ministry of Mines.
Yeah.
Let's do things legally so that we pay our taxes to ZRA and improve our economy. This has been your breakfast show, your host, Prudence Chota, from the entire Camnet TV production team, from my guests, Mr. Mango and Mr. Ngwenya from the Zambia Revenue Authority. It's bye for now. God bless you till next time. See you on the other side.
Thank you.